Kengan, a fighting anime that kind of reminds me of Baki. The character I want to talk about today is the fighter known as Ohma Tokita, the main character of this series, of course. Like every main character, he's a high-tier fighter in this universe. It's a fictional universe still, but pretty straightforward. It's a fighting anime. Strength and skill are big things. I mean, Ohma can improve pretty fast in fighting skill. I'm talking about even to where people notice just a single day, he can increase his skills and power to a whole new level. I mean, when you can copy techniques, I guess that could be part of the lore reason explanation on why he can improve so fast. He only saw it once in this particular situation. Scans like this even prove that he improves, gets stronger over time. Due to the crazy training he's went through, in certain situations, it would essentially give him super senses to where he can see his surroundings with all his 5 senses. He can even sense beings' movements. Like, what, this guy got haki or something from One Piece? I've even seen him use knives while younger. And if you work hard enough in this universe, you can gain ridiculous strength. Like, there's even certain characters that are born with strong muscle fibers that give them superhuman strength from birth. Like this guy. Ohma, the character I'm going over today, specializes in this fighting style known as the Niko Style. He had a trainer. They both trained with weighted training clothes on. He has a ton of different fighting techniques for different circumstances against other strong fighters. This Niko Style seems to have a counter for everything. But obviously, his body has to be super strong to be able to withstand hits from these superhuman beings, even with a certain amount of skill. Skill can't carry you everywhere. You got to have some type of bodily strength, too. I mean, just look how built his master is. Really good fighters' opinions about Ohma is that in certain arts, when it comes to this fighting skill, in the Niko Style, certain arts of this style, they believe Ohma surpassed the creator of Niko Style in his prime in certain aspects, in this guy's opinion. He actually technically learned how to transform. He can essentially transform by increasing his adrenaline. This scan right here pretty much tells how he eventually gets to the point where he can regulate it at will, where it won't put strain on his body, where it would originally put extra strain on his body. In a way, kind of makes him haxy, but not in your traditional haxy way. This anime takes the term speed is weight seriously, saying that the fact that he can punch faster means that there's more weight behind his hits when he powers up. But like knowing so many techniques against your opponent, despite how strong the opponent is compared to you, in a haxy way, like you can get the advantage over somebody stronger than you with certain techniques. You know what I mean? He's such a technical fighter, he can actually use your power and redirect it back at you. That's why I say it's kind of haxy. This is an example of hacks. Techniques known as chi blockage. It's a technique used to stop him when he would go out of control during his, berserk mode, adrenaline's rushing. It was originally meant to destroy the nerves. It can be used to suppress the nervous system. I do want to make something clear, like every opponent he beats or you see in this video doesn't necessarily mean he's physically stronger than, but he's in the same ballpark, right? For example, like let me just give you some random numbers right quick. Say if his strength is an 8 out of 10, right? There's going to be opponents he faced that might have a 10 out of 10 level strength, and he still might win in the fight because there's more to fighting than just raw strength, but he's strong enough to where he can use his wits, whatever strength he might lack, his skills, his haxy skills, can make him get the win. Like every opponent he beats, that doesn't necessarily mean he's actually stronger than, but he's strong enough. He's in the same league, if that makes sense. Because a lot of this stuff is technical fighting skills. Like this particular opponent, people agree that this guy's stronger than Ohma when it comes to how hard he can hit, but thanks to his techniques and skills, technicalities, he can use the fact that that character is apparently stronger than him to his advantage. Even if it's not by a drastic margin to where he can't compete, he can redirect this same power back at his opponents. Let's deep dive on how strong he is. Proof that resistance training is everything. He literally has weights on his arms and legs while training. Even in these younger days, he himself considered these weights are not heavy enough. Like he can still move fast with these on. Carrying an extra 80 pounds can definitely help out your strength. But he's wearing this overall during his training. And it's confirmed that Ohma literally had to physically drag this thing himself with his physical muscle after beating it. Reminds me of the anime Baki, of him beating super large creatures. The size of this board looks like he had to weigh over 5 tons. So right off gate, he's already physically strong in the way he looks, being able to probably support the weight of cars on his back with his muscle, dragging a big board like that. Without speculating, I would even go into the big guarantee that he can lift more, considering that the opponents he has to fight are also superhuman, and we've seen some crazy lifting feats of the people he has to face against similar fighters. I'm not saying Ohma actually did these feats, but these are the type of beings these fighters have to compete against. You see, beings that can bend barbells. Like this same being, this is not Ohma, but this same being, one of the fighters, literally was being pulled by a car and literally stopped the pull of this car with his raw muscle. So it just lets you know that the fighters in this universe are very Baki-ish, with them surpassing human limitations when it comes to strength. This is probably a mixture of strength and skills through this Niko Style, putting it through his fingers like this, breaking his blade. With all this superhuman stuff I've showed you, you're not shocked that he can hit with crazy weight, are you? I mean, when you can take on 100 men and they got freaking weapons, you can't be normal, because he did it without breaking a sweat. When he hits beings, they fly through the air. The weight of his kicks do this to street lights. I literally almost feel bad for these guys' faces on how he engraves concrete. I mean, he doesn't even have to connect with your face. Just the air pressure itself was able to do all of this to this guy. There's this one fighter that's known for his pinching strength when it comes to like his grip and such, his hands are like blades. This is an exaggerated picture of it, but yeah, it's kind of like this concept. He doesn't actually have blades, but it's stated in the lore that his grip is so crazy he can even cut steel apart just from his grip fingers, partly because of his strength, but mostly skill, because this guy I would say has the, you know, the grip advantage, because that's what he specializes in, but Ohma's still strong enough to where you can kind of counter him with skill and everything put together. You can look at this as battle IQ on Ohma's part. Learning how his technique works, he was able to counter it. He learned that his grip needed acceleration on top of his raw strength. So if he got rid of the acceleration, he wouldn't be able to do it. This is straight battle IQ, learning that he would not allow his fingers to touch him. Ohma's punches can cave your face in. How many tons of force do you think it took him to take out this boar? I mean, he was literally eating it for dinner. Like how we get it from the store, he just physically, manually goes out there and does it. At this point in the video, saying the weight of his hits couldn't punch through concrete would just be disrespectful at this point. I mean, he even talks about how he had to punch a hole in the wall. So yeah, he can easily punch through walls. I mean, via meditation, how much weight do you think is behind this strike? Doing this to this big rock like this, for example. Blows like that make it appear that he could blow a house away with the weight of his strikes. Naturally, his body can withstand similar stuff. He has to fight beings that can damage him pretty bad. His body has to withstand this recoil of his hits. I think we all can agree that an older Ohma can punch harder than his younger self, right? During his training session with his master, of course, who's ridiculously strong, can do all of this. Like, you see the mountain, and then you see like the gash that Ohma did with his punch. The collateral of his hits during a training session. The impact of his hits reached higher than the trees, like the smoke at least from his punch. While young, the weight of his hits are so heavy that people think he's holding something. Look at how rocks look from his punches. I mean, it's a big universe, right? I mean, we know Ohma's the main character, but even though he's the main character, we haven't seen him technically fight everybody in this universe, but there's characters that didn't make it to the final round of certain tournaments. And you can kind of get an idea of how strong these people are based on who made it to the final round. You know what I mean? Like in these fighting tournaments, like there's this guy way back here in the back. This guy didn't even make it to the final round, while Ohma did. Beings that are not even at the top of the hierarchy when it comes to fighters in this universe, still superhuman, but not at the top of the hierarchy. Humans like this could still squeeze and take out sharks with their raw strength alone, and take on ridiculously large beasts. Like this sperm whale, this junk is huge. Like, you telling me this little weapon was able to kill this being? Real life sperm whales can go up to 40 tons and such, but this whale looked like it probably weighed more. Maybe 100 tons, which should be fair. You can almost hypothetically say if Ohma was in a situation, he could take on a whale like this. We haven't seen it, but that's something to think about. Like, he's one of the fighters that didn't even make it to the final round. So Ohma in his base state, being able to punch this being out or knock it out or something, I definitely think of it as being in the realm of possibility. These Kengan characters being able to punch with 100 tons of force at least makes sense with a lot of the stuff you're going to see throughout this video. I would say he could do this in his base. You can argue even higher with his transformation. Even in base form, it's at this point in the video, it's not hard to believe that the weight of his hits can quake entire buildings based on all this stuff. Even more than one side-by-side, one could say, or a miniature earthquake in the vicinity, one could say. One of the best ways to understand Ohma's might is his opponent he had to fight. This guy that was a genetic freak, basically. He's a being that has muscle fibers that are 52 times denser than the average person. That's why he exceeds human limitations, because he has a rare condition known as the Superman syndrome. Trust me, this is not Ohma, but I'm bringing this guy up for a reason. Even as a kid, simply playing video games, he's too strong for the titanium controller. And he's only 7 years old here in this particular situation. Keep in mind that the character I'm showing right now is a kid. Yeah, he can destroy brick walls even this young. Imagine his new self. This guy with the Superman syndrome can hit this freaking hard with his punches. The weight of this guy's hits clashing with somebody else that's pretty strong, juggernaut-ish, they quake the entire arena. Ohma's body can withstand hits consistently from this unnaturally strong being that can shake entire arenas. I'm talking about a volley. You can almost look at this as a form of hack, somebody that can hit this hard to shake arenas. Ohma can redirect it with one of his fighting arts to where he can actually hit this same being with the same force he's putting out. Using your own punching power against you, being able to do this to this same being would imply he's somewhere in that ballpark, especially with this particular technique, implying Ohma's hits could also shake entire arenas. And he actually found a way to add his power on top of his own. He's redirecting to hit this ridiculously strong titan of a fighter and actually win the fight after a high difficulty fight. I want you guys to keep in mind this being that Ohma is slugfest and what can literally shake the top of a mountain, and Ohma has to withstand hits from this ridiculously strong juggernaut. Sure, that didn't seem like the biggest mountain in the world, but Ohma's literally slugfesting with this juggernaut. I think via hacks and via his fighting technique with his physicals and everything combined, depending on how strong his opponent is, he can hit with so much force, similar to Quake's smaller mountains. I'm not necessarily saying the weight of his punches could shake Mount Everest or nothing, but just imagine combining his transformation with Niko Style and redirecting. Like, just imagine all this stuff combined. He would even be able to hit harder with his transformation. Him fist fighting with this juggernaut is impressive. You know, this guy who reminds me a lot of Azura from Azura's Wrath, the video game, has his own secret clan technique and craft. He's one of the stronger beings when he transforms like this. There's implications that he still can hit somewhere in these guys' league. Even if he's slightly below, he's still somewhere in their ballpark, because even without having to redirect, this guy's punches was still compared to him in some way. But they did say this guy's punches were harder, though.
He's got so much power. He hits harder than Ryan Kure.
You can look at it like when he's advanced or when he's doing possessed by a god mode, his Super Saiyan mode, basically, he can actually stop hits from these super powerful beings. When both of these beings are powered up, we see Ohma can get in a full-blown slugfest with beings that have similar transformations to him. So while that guy may not hit as hard as this guy, Ohma is taking hits from this guy even in his base state, proving that he should be somewhere in this guy's base ballpark when at least when he transforms. You know, in his possessed by a god state, he can definitely shake a whole block. These fighters in this universe can create their own localized earthquakes literally with their just punches. Just from working out and hard work and dedication, a fighter can train hard enough to where their punches actually can create their own localized earthquakes. Isn't that hard to believe? All this crazy punching power went over, you can kind of say he's fast. With a combination of his physicals and technique, he can kind of do fast stuff via footwork and stuff to be able to punch you in all different type of directions ridiculously fast to where you can't hardly block. I mean, look how it's visually animated when it comes to his speed. There's beings that move fast, even for their giant bodies, that people are not even sure if they're human, and Ohma's still dodging them, implying superhuman speed, combat speed. Matter of fact, he's so slow, Ohma even calls him a freaking statue. Like, the speed gap is vast. Dodges teeth only with his hearing alone. He can blitz at you from point A to point B because he stated he closed the distance in the blink of an eye here. Let's just say Ohma has faster than the speed of sound type reflexes. There's stuff that can break the apparent sound barrier. It's impossible to defend against with human reaction time. And you guessed it, Ohma still reacted to such stuff that's apparently faster than sound. I mean, there's literal beings that Ohma has to compete against that literally can make after images via combat speed. I mean, this is a being that can react to bullets. So that speed of sound, faster than speed of sound type speed, kind of starts making sense for Ohma, having to compete against these beings that can react to bullets. I guess in a weird way, since I already pretty much proved in this show or in this manga that speed is weight, this could be part of the reason on why Ohma can even hit so hard. On top of his physicals and stuff like that, he can hit partly hard. It's probably partly because of his speed, because it's even stated, like I mentioned earlier, that speed is literally weights. I reiterated this earlier, but I'm bringing it back up to show how consistent it is with this show. And when it comes to raw speed, if we're talking about Ohma when he transforms, it appears that Ohma quite literally surpasses bullet speed, because even though this guy can react to bullets when it comes to his fighting speed, Ohma can easily still react to him. Yeah, when he's powered up, somebody that can react to bullets, it's narrated, even though he's this fast, Ohma is on an entirely different level of speed than him. These could be puns, but you could say when he powers up, you could argue that he got at least 2 times multiplier, one could say. So this would bare minimally say if he's the speed of sound level, if his reflexes or fist can move at the speed of sound, blah, 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 before the transformation, with the transformation, he can move 2 times the speed of sound, one could say, as a bare minimum. This fast being even acknowledged that Ohma's speed is greater than he expected. Let's just say if you tried to shoot Ohma with bullets, he would be dodging them like this. His reflexes would see the bullet coming, and he would simply move out the way like this. There's fighters, this feat isn't necessarily Ohma's, but there's literally boxers or fighters in this universe that can land 15 hits on you, and you can't see a single one. I mean, think about it. Ohma's master, Niko, has fighting speed feats that are dodging bullet level and deflecting bullet type stuff. Like here, he can react and knock bullets out of the air. It's easy to say, oh, maybe he just knew where the bullet was going to go. I mean, you could argue that too, but some of this is just straight up freaking fighting speed. This is almost mastered. This is not necessarily Ohma himself, but yeah, characters having the combat speed to reflect bullets like it's no big deal while running towards somebody that's shooting at him constantly. It seems like a common theme for fighters in this universe. He knows where all your pressure points are and he will hit you there. Yeah, this show has a lot of superhuman elements to it. Ohma is a superhuman being. How strong do you think he is? He knows techniques that allow him to harden his body to make his hits harder, because when something hits you, even if it's the same weight, if it's more durable, it's going to hurt more. This example is talking about if a block of iron that's 10 kilograms was to hit you and a 10 kilogram block of tofu was to hit you, which one would hurt more? It would obviously be the one that's harder, even though they're the same weight. He can hit hard thanks to this Niko style that allows you to instantly harden the muscles in your body, striking your opponent with a body of steel. But what do you guys think? Did you know Ohma was this strong and fast? Him and the rest of the fighters believe. You should hit that like button for me. And thanks for the donations, everybody. I'm glad you are enjoying your time on the channel. Make sure you check out the playlist on the channel to see other How Strong videos. If you like what this channel is offering, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and I will see you guys later.